On. Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
So to the students and to the advisory board members, thank you very much for participating today. Students, we really appreciate your willingness to engage. You'll benefit today from some outstanding insights from industry leaders in the marketing field. And to the advisory boards, a very, very sincere thanks. Your continued commitment to giving back, your continued willingness to share your insights, and I have to say, based on previous experience, always very impressive and insightful thoughts that are offered. So thank you so much for contributing today to helping our students, and students, thank you for taking part in what will be a really great conversation. So with that, I turn it back over.
Thank you, Dean. Andrea, did you have a few points you wanted to make before we get started?
Yes, thanks everybody for your time. And like the Dean said, thank you to everyone for joining us today. Truly, it's wonderful to see so many faces, especially the students that RSVP'd to give us your time and attention today. MAC, the Marketing Advisory Council, I believe it's been around 7-8 years, but our goal is to engage with the students, to provide marketing advice and intel into what kind of career path holds in the future. So look forward to a couple programs we just launched with the RU Network Mentor Match Program. A lot of the executives, or many in the room today, are looking for mentees. In the next semester, our pilot program will launch, so look for more details on that. And we're looking for student leaders interested in working with Angela Connelly. She's here today. She's with T-Mobile. She's our subcommittee chair, helping students connect with MAC members, along with Roy Johnson and George Wyrock and a few other members that are here today. We're looking for leaders to help form the Student Leadership Association, called Marketing Leadership Association, MLA, to join MAC, so that we can take this type of panel offline, meet regularly, and go through career advice and provide more specific insight into any questions. We were sent a few questions this week via Ashley that we won't be able to touch on today, but our members who couldn't join us would love to answer those via either write that up for you or host another panel. Plus, feel free to submit any questions in the live chat as it comes up, or any emojis or wave. And you have all of our contact info via Ashley as well. So thank you again for RSVPing. And Mike Yardley, who's going to be our moderator, he is the Chief Operations for VML YNR. He's one of the original employees for VML YNR. He's a UMKC alumni. He's responsible for creating the mentorship program for VML. I have no idea how many thousands of students he has probably seen through their mentorship halls, but thousands each summer worldwide. So he knows a little bit about that. So today he'll be helping us with 5 questions about 5 careers: brand management, sales, B2b marketing research, and customer data, as well as sales or business development. So the members today, we're going to try to do a speed version. All of the marketers and leaders could talk the entire hour about each of these questions. We're going to ask them to speak in a bullet or a quote so that all 14 members get a chance to answer for today's time. And Mike is going to lay down be the smooth moderator and make sure that we stay on track. And if we get to only 2 or 3 questions, that might be the case, but we do want to make sure we use your time wisely. So with that being said, Mike is going to get us started. Thanks.
Thank you, Andrea. I'm going to equate this to, I'm going to show my age, to speed dating. Probably not a thing anymore, but it used to be a thing. We're gonna keep a pretty brisk pace here. And we hope that you learn a lot from this. And once again, we can always follow up afterwards. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat, and we will get to them probably outside of this particular format. So I'm going to start right off with the brand management team. And I'm going to ask you really 2 questions, kind of 2 questions that I've put together. Question 1 is, within the brand management track, what are the various kinds of jobs that one might pursue as a part of their potential role in brand management? And then 2, what are the kinds of tasks or the kinds of responsibilities those jobs would require within that particular field of brand management? And I'll turn it over to you guys. You can fight over who goes first, whether it be Melissa or Ellen. Take off.
Ellen, you want to go first? Sure, I'll head out. I'll jump in here. I'm Ellen Junkin. I'm a MAC member. I've been a MAC member, I think, practically since the MAC was formed, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer here at Hallsberg Diamonds in North Kansas City, although largely out of my house these days. And I would say from a brand management standpoint, there's a number of different ways you come into brand management. Typically, I've hired folks into brand management out of entry-level jobs in customer care, out of merchandising, out of email marketing, out of kind of lots of different areas. I think generally brand management often is a generalist position. So you're really looking at that person who's able to connect the dots across, product, pricing, all of the P's, as well as really focusing on the brand and all of the pieces and the building blocks of the brand. So, I like to think of it as sort of the very well-rounded part of brand management. Oftentimes they are writing creative briefs. So, I look for people who have that combination of right brain and left brain, both analytical as well as creative skills, which is why I think it's a great career. So I think there's a lot, oftentimes I'm looking for people who are pretty well-rounded. They've gotten some experience on the, either digging deep into consumer analytics, and they've done some of the project management, connecting directly with customers. Oftentimes, I really have seen some great success with people who have had retail experience either on the floor or out of a care, like a customer at Hallmark, where I worked for many years. We hired a lot of people out of the sales organization because they had that customer orientation. So there's a lot of different ways you can go, but I think it's good to understand brand management kind of at a deeper level. So I think, again, it's a well-rounded position, and there's a lot of different ways you can get into the career.
Super. Melissa, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, I think Ellen did a nice job. I'm Melissa Hendricks. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for Varisc. We're based out of New Jersey, and I used to head marketing for Cerner, which is based in Kansas City, and I'm actually right now in my New Jersey office. So I'm calling in from afar. I think brand management is one of the most exciting and dynamic places for strategic marketers. I think Ellen really did a nice job of suggesting it's both strategic and creative, and you do need to marry those. I think individuals that do really well in brand roles, and I hire people that are brand strategy, the brand strategy side, the brand creative side, so designers and multimedia. So you would be working with those individuals, as well as brand operations. So right now at Varisc, if you went out and looked at us online, you would see our identity and expression is fairly dated. It's a great company, but it really hasn't done a lot to create the spirit and the love affair with the Varisc brand that I personally feel. So right now, one of my team's projects in the brand side is an identity and purpose refresh. And that started with 2 white papers that are each about 15 pages long that go into the history of the company and provide a lot of strategic thinking that drives the next steps. Many of you may be parents. I think great brands are a lot like raising children. You do a lot of work for a long time, and you find out in 20 years whether it pays off. And I think brand strategists have to have both a sense of urgency in the near term, as well as a long-term lens to where do you want this brand and how do you want it to be perceived 20 years from now, not 6 months. So individuals that have, and my biggest ask of all of my team members is to bring their thinking caps and their strategic skills to every single thing that they work on and treat it as though it was very critical. Ellen was talking about previous roles that I think work well for brand folks. Interestingly, I've done brand roles for a long time, but I waitressed in high school and college, and those individuals that get excited when there are 6 tables being sat at the same time and you're overwhelmed and multitasking tend to be individuals that balance a brand role really well, because every day has operations expectations, strategic thinking expectations, as well as the windshield to manage.
Great. I'm gonna stop you there. A couple of quick observations from my standpoint. One of the great things about brand management is if you go to a CPG company, you can actually get in on the ground floor and learn a lot in the brand side of the business. So that's something to be aware of and consider. The other thing I would say is brand as a category has changed significantly over the past, say, 10 years with the advent of social media, and the whole how we manage our brand and how we bring it to life is very different, and it needs an injection of young souls who understands the world we live in today. So I think those are good things as well.
Yeah, Mike,
yeah.
I'm going to build on yours for just a moment. I 100% agree about the consumer packaged goods side of it. If you're thinking about a career as a brand management, in the brand management field, go get your chops in that space. The B2B space tends to be a lot more executionally oriented. Brand managers that come from the CPG world, consumer packaged goods world, are actually running a business, and you understand a lot more of a holistic view of running a brand. And I will tell you that that background for me was very helpful in the role that I have now. And sometimes I've found limitations with B2B marketers who want to do a task and not understand the broader strategy. So Mike, really great point.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to move on now. We'll go to advertising, which, by the way, is not brand. That's kind of interesting. Some may think that it is, but it's not. And we'll do the same thing, which is what are the kinds of roles and what are the kind of functions or the things you need in order to do those roles. And Jimmy or Christy, does one of you want to start?
I can start if that's all right.
Sure.
I'd say one of the key roles at an advertising agency and that side of the business, which partners, very closely with Melissa and everything that, is on the brand side, but, is client service. And that can be also called account management. At Barkley, we actually call it brand leadership. So, I forgot the intro, Jimmy Cowan, Barkley, VP Growth Strategy Director. But topic of what we're talking about is client service, account management, brand leadership. Now, these individuals tend to manage the ongoing logistics as well as the relationship with the clients, managing campaigns as well as projects, and just ongoing plans that that brand leader on the client side is managing or collaborating with as well. So, they're doing a lot of sort of the day-to-day gathering of teams and making sure that people are aligned and delivering on the expectations of what is required of the business and what that piece of advertising or communications or what have you needs to solve for. I would say that it is a ongoing it continues to become a more and more complex and demanding role, just because of the very reasons of what Mike said about how brands are evolving and changing, and the demands of social media and other things that are constantly coming into the agency side of it. But I'd say to really succeed in a brand leadership or client service role at an agency in advertising would be fairly strategic and really good at building relationships and sort of getting into a seat of advisory with both the client that they service directly, the buyer, but also their colleagues and the individuals around them is something that I think is extremely important. So yeah.
I always say that if you like politics, you can make yourself into a very good account person.
That's accurate.
Because you have to represent the client and you have to represent your company, and there's always a thin line, and it's a lot of fun, but it doesn't come without its days of bruises, I'll say.
Yeah, this is Christy Lewis, and I spent 15 years of my early career in advertising, and so that's kind of the track that I'll speak to today. Currently, I'm the VP of Marketing at Hallmark Cards, so a lot of crossover that you'll see on the advisory board here. We've all kind of been in different places. So I would just say, I was in the client services side as well on the agency side. I also led the analytics group. And so when you think about the different tracks within an agency, certainly client services is where I spent most of my time, but there's also creative groups. There's media strategy and execution. You could be a social media expert. You could be new business development too, on the sales side, and of course, like analytics, which I also led. And I would echo, you have to be a really, really good listener and communicator to be a good client services person, or really leader in any of those other areas. When you're meeting with clients, you have to really listen for the client's pain points and then try to solve those. So you're constantly trying to ingrain yourself in the industry or the business that you're servicing, and bringing that and being the champion in the agency for those clients. So you are the ones that are really trying to make sure that that client gets the best creative, the best, most efficient media buy, the best reporting, the best dashboards. Like, you're their voice. So the client's going to be happy if they feel like you and your agency role is really their champion, and that you care as much about their business as they do. So it's a really interesting, fun space to be in, for sure. You also get exposure to all kinds of different industries, which is the great thing about an agency. You can lean into financial services or packaged goods, CPG. You can get retail experience. I mean, really, it's the best place, I think, coming out of getting your degree. If you're not sure where your passion is, man, get in an agency environment and you'll quickly learn what you love and maybe things that you don't love.
Yeah, I would say that one of the things to consider as you think about the advertising agency world is that it varies quite a bit between a very large agency and a very small agency as to what your skill sets might be and what you might learn and what you might not learn. The larger the agency, the more often it's specialized. So as you come into that agency, you might be a strategist, you might be a user experience person, you might be an account person. Whereas when you get into the smaller agencies, many times you wear several different hats because they just don't have the resources to be able to afford all those other resources. In my experience, either one can be very, very informative. It's kind of one of those things where if you're a generalist, you can go so far, but if you learn a lot about a few things, maybe you go even further. So consider that as you think about the various ways that you might enter the workforce as well. With that, I'm going to move out of advertising, and I'm going to move over to market research. And I'm going to leave that with Grant, Ted, Angela. One of you want to run?
Yeah, I can start off. Grant Gooding. I have a company called Proof Positioning. We're a highly specialized and niched market research agency that only focuses on emotional testing. Market research. I was a business analyst before jumping into the world of marketing, which was a little bit broader of a leap than I anticipated. But the world of marketing is a world of ideas, and research and business are very much integrated. And in my opinion, is not all that integrated with marketing yet, but it's changing. And that's mainly because marketing is such a highly unique discipline. It's in an idea-driven industry, and clients like ideas, and they release good chemicals in the brain. And a lot of times the research people are kind of like the naysayers. But that, like I said, I think that integration is getting better. And I think one of the characteristics that is changing in that regard, I think Ellen said this earlier, it's turning into more of a left brain, right brain type of discipline, where typically it was all analytics but translation and conversion between departments is becoming extremely important in research. We did a lot of research on research, which is extremely nerdy. But the number one complaint from leaders, both on the agency side and organizational CEOs, B2b, B2C, is we love research. Turning it into money is hard. So how do we take information that we garner from customer and market research and actually turn it into viable ideas and cross that bridge? So if you want something that's extremely challenging, I don't know political, although Mike, I think that was a very, very good description on the brand management side. But if you want something that is extremely challenging, where you're good with numbers, but you're good with turning those numbers into very simple explanations that you can explain to multiple people, it is a path that you should consider. We need good people in this space.
Excellent.
I'll jump in from a perspective of someone who uses market research. So I'm Angela Connelly, and I'm with T-Mobile, previously Sprint. I could certainly talk about brand too, as the recent merger from Sprint to T-Mobile. But I'm on the network marketing team, which means I'm helping to promote our 5G. Perhaps you've heard a little bit about that. We do a lot of market research. Everything that we do from a marketing standpoint, we do based on what we have learned from market research. And so we work very closely with our consumer insights team. I've worked with them to conduct several different kinds of projects that range from surveys to focus groups to different kinds of things to measure people's responses to advertising, messaging, creative, those types of things. And what that data is king. We rely on the feedback that we get directly from the people that we're surveying and listening to. That information helps us identify what kind of messaging we need to be putting out there. Who is our audience? How do we target the right people in the right way in the right place? So we really rely on those groups. And what I will say is that to be successful in that area, you need to be analytical, but also creative. You need to be able to take a look at what are we trying to solve for, and what is the information that's going to help a particular marketing project or marketing effort or ad be successful. And so again, it's based on information and data, and being able to take the analytics, either creating a survey or actually implementing a survey, or then analyzing the feedback that comes back from a survey. Those are the things that we're looking for in that kind of a role. So you need to be analytical, ability to facilitate is really important, and then be able to translate the information to help the marketing team know how to apply.
Ted, do you have any little tidbits you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I would. Sorry, I'm in an orthodontist parking lot in my car, my sixth graders inside there. But I mostly am a brand management track guy for the last 21 years or so, but having dealt with a number of studies as well as commissioned, market research as a brand manager, I can say that there, and I echo the comment earlier about kind of the audience adaptability. It's really important to understand who the audience is when you're presenting the data, or even kind of culling the data, to be able to kind of position it, not in the story that you want to tell, but the story that the data tells. Because for instance, a vice president, may not have time for a 10-minute spiel. And so you got to be prepared to give that 30-second, what they call, the elevator speech based on the data, and what it's telling you. Whereas, you might be able to walk down the hall and spend 20 minutes with the brand manager or associate brand manager and really dive deep into the whys and whatnot. So as I think about, the track market research, and if you are, for the candidates that are on the phone that are going into or want to go into a market research track, just remember the audience and always remember to frame it in a manner that, can be digested, if you will, by that audience.
Thank you. I'm going to move on. Before I move on, though, one thing I would say about this track is that every company in America today and around the world is really struggling with big data, all the amounts of data that are available, and how the heck do I use that data to propel my business forward, to understand my audience. So understanding and being a numbers kinds of person can be very, very valuable in today's marketplace. With that, and now I'm going to move over, let's go to B2B, because somebody kind of trounced on them a little bit. Let's talk about B2B a little bit. Does somebody want to start the B2B track?
I can start. My name's Delana Lee. I'm the Vice President of Marketing for Blue Scope Buildings North America. And I started out my marketing career doing brand management. And so I would say if you're interested in any sort of marketing role, brand management is a really great place to start, whether everybody's already sort of talked about all the great things about brand management, but one thing that I feel like is missing in a lot of B2B spaces is the not really getting the benefits of brand management and not taking advantage of those. And so it's really important if you do get into a B2B business that you find out from that company if they are, how they value marketing, because you can really add a lot of value to a B2B space with the basics that you learn in a brand management role. So the other thing I would say is if you want to be in the B2B space, it's very helpful if you have a sales role for a little while at least, so you can understand the nuances that occur between the customer and the salesperson. But there's lots of different tracks to get into B2B marketing. One of them is to start in the CPG world and then translate that skill over. But the other one is, we've talked about market research. Something that B2B businesses use a lot are industry trends and industry association trends. The big data is a huge issue at our company. Just being able to use Salesforce to its fullest extent. So if you really like Salesforce or similar kinds of software, you can carve out a really great role for yourself in a B2B business, any business, but I'm speaking specifically about B2B. And then understanding how distribution works in a B2B space is really important too. Is it a closed distribution? Is it, do you only, do you sell direct? Do you sell through dealers? That kind of thing. So understanding how products get from, the manufacturing site to the end customer is really important too. And then I would say, in general terms, if you can understand, and this kind of goes back to brand management, but understand the promise that you're conveying to your customers and keep that promise. And so we talk about that a ton. Yes, B2B is business to business. Somebody asked that question, but yes, B2B is business to business and B2C is business to consumer. So, and then CPG is consumer packaged good. Now we've got some acronyms figured out. So, but yeah, that's what I would say about B2B marketing.
So before Roy, you take over, the one thing that I always like to remind people of is business-to-business customers are consumers.
Yes.
So it's not like we're dealing with androids or something. They're consumers, but they do their jobs, and their jobs require us to understand their business and their channels. All the things that you're talking about.
I think I've said that 5,000 times in my career that B2B is, customers are still consumers and they still like to feel important. So
Roy, you want to add something?
Yeah, no, I think sometimes B2B marketing gets kind of looked at as the redheaded stepchild of marketing. And I think if you take a step back, marketing is marketing. And I agree with, these individuals are consumers as well as customers, but the same principles that apply of, you define your target audience, you figure out how to best reach them with what sort of media, and then, what's going to resonate, what messaging is going to resonate. It's all the same, across the board there. So I think that just, as you guys look at, what you may be interested in your career, both B2B and B2C, and I think you'll even find when you do B2C, you're still going to do some B2B marketing, as well as you target the clients there. You're not able to really, you don't really escape it if it's something that you're interested in doing. And I would say it's actually something that's pretty exciting and gives you the chance to look at it to a lot of different ways. I've had some great opportunities to work for some great B2C companies like Dairy Farmers of America and the Campbell Soup Company and Smithfield Foods. I now work for Black & Veatch, and that's a large engineering firm. And all the skills that were applicable to me when I was selling Goldfish crackers and doing brand management for that and innovation and all that are still applicable to, how do we best sell Tesla that we can help build out their charging network? Or how do I go build a giant hydrogen facility to help with the next generation of electrification of fleets over in Oregon? All those skills are all the same, and they're really important. So it's great to see that you're starting to see it all come together with the different MAC members of kind of the different roles that can play. But B2B is one that I would definitely encourage you guys to not just flip the page on when you're reading about it, but to dig in a little bit and see what that looks like, especially if you're going to stay in the or have desires to stay in the Kansas City area, there's a lot of companies that need B2B help. And a lot of times, especially with entry-level positions, they're more willing to take on someone like that. A lot of it is due to some of the salaries being a little bit lower as well, but just some really great opportunities to cut your teeth and don't sell that short.
Yeah, I agree. So the other thing about B2B, and it's going to transition right into the sales team, is I find understanding the sales channel and the sales force to be even more important in the B2B space than it is in the B2C space, because that's where the channel is. That's what's happening in the marketplace. So that's very important. The other thing I would say is that I believe the B2B channel can offer you many opportunities, because once you learn the trade and the business, your value becomes that exponentially more. It's not just about your marketing skills, but it's about your trade skills and your understanding of the business as well. So with that, now I'd like to turn to the last team, which is the sales team, to talk about how sales fits into all of this. George, Corey, Andrea, anybody?
I'll start. Looks like I'm the first one unmuted there. I'm Corey. I'm the Vice President of Strategic and Business Development for Van Trust Real Estate. We're a national developer in commercial real estate. One of the things for sales for me is, marketing is not very black and white, but sales to me is pretty black and white. And I always say you either have it or you don't in sales. And so when I look for an individual that's going to be performing sales, I look for a well-rounded background. I would look for some type of customer service or account service role where you're able to work with the client, be able to find solutions for that client, and be able to, like we were talking about earlier, have a level head in working with clients, because sometimes that could be difficult. I think, Mike, you said it's a thin line between representing the client and the company, and you have to manage both. And I think that sales is like that also. You can go out and promise the world, but your company may not be able to execute on your sale unless you know exactly what your company is able to deliver fully. So for me, it's more of a well-rounded background, and customer service, I think, is the most important. And like I said, either you have it or don't. You really need to be extroverted and know how to build relationships with people and maintain those relationships. But more importantly, you know how to close the sale.
George?
I'm going to piggyback with everything that Corey said. My name is George Wyrock. I am with Rock Creative Network, a company that I started 9.5 years ago. I'm the founder and the relationship evangelist. Back when I've been doing this over 25 years, business development, and it has changed night and day, because I was doing it back when Mike was starting too. So we were back then, I was dialing and smiling. It was all about selling. Today, if you come across as selling, they will run. It really, as Corey said, it is really about creating relationships. It is about asking relevant questions to that customer and that industry. So you have to do your homework. It reminds me of a time Melissa was on a panel discussion with me. It was through AMA Luncheon, and I was moderating, and somebody in the audience asked this question: how can I get in front of you, Melissa, at Cerner? And she said, and it actually surprised me, but it didn't. She goes, do what George does. And I'm going, she said, ask me questions about what I need, do research about my company and my industry, and find me solutions to those problems. Don't sell me anything else. So it really isn't about selling anymore. It's about doing a really good job of asking questions. Listening skills are actually better than presenting. You got to have thick skin. You have to be persistent, because it is no longer about you closing the deal. It is about you providing solutions. They never want to feel like they're sold, but if you find the right solutions and help them, you probably have a customer for life.
Great. Andrea, anything from you?
Yeah, when Roy Johnson mentioned that the redheaded stepchild, I thought he was talking about the sales team.
Ouch.
No, I'm Andrea Kirsch. I'm with Make Digital Group Marketing Agency. Sales, business development, it always has the stigma that you're just sending these emails or robo-dialing somebody, or you're an Arabian prince and you just want some money. And that stigma is so not true. So many organizations have a variety of business development or sales departments, and any successful business development person or a salesperson is trustworthy. Trust this. People won't do business with you if they don't trust you, or if they don't trust you, they won't do business with you again. So some of the important tracks, like many of the marketers have said today, is account service and management, getting your hands in and understanding the fundamentals of how a project occurs is how you can walk a client or a prospect or a consumer or a business partner through whatever you're selling, your product, service, or your goals. Data analytics, truly knowing the back end of the front end is going to sell itself. Any job you take, they're going to train you on their business and their motto and their mantra, but the tools that you learn or the certifications that you get in class, that will carry with you, because that visual or that insight helps any of your prospects. Again, I like what George said, you can't really afford to waste someone's time. The market is extremely competitive. Everyone today looks so nice. These are some of the most competitive marketers, brand managers, advertisers in the industry, in the country, in the city for sure. So they look very nice and gentle, but every day they advance their education and anticipate needs of others. So that's really what I think are the important tracks. And day to day, you're responsible for the company's bottom line. So you have to be really good at numbers, finance, budget.
Finance is really important. I was a horrible math student, and my first job was in sales, and I learned salesman's math, which is 1 + 1 = 3. And from there, it was all great. What I would say to you is that if you're having trouble getting into the marketing or advertising field you're looking to get into, sales is a great place to start, because you learn communication skills and business skills that apply to any of the rest of the jobs we've talked about. I think the problem is a lot of people look at sales and think used car salesman. That is not what sales is. So that's the thing that I would encourage you is don't just shy away from it because you think it's below you. There are great opportunities in the sales world, which kind of leads us into the next question, which is, so when I start, what can I expect to make? And what does it look like in 4 or 5 years? That's a loaded question, everybody, just to be honest, but we're going to try to answer it for you. We'll start with sales and work our way back around. Anybody?
I think from a sales perspective, that it's a really lucrative business. I've been in companies where salespeople make as much as the CEO does. So I think in my industry, you could start out at 50,000 and work your way up to the 6 figures within a few years. And I think probably in a lot of companies, you could do that if you're a really strong salesman or woman.
Yeah, others? Anybody else in that group?
I agree with that. You can probably make mid to 200K, but it's going to take a lot of work. It's not a 8-hour-a-day thing. It is all the time. The challenge is in our industry, I've been with agencies who tried to do a combination of salary and commission. Doesn't work. It's pretty much straight salary and just hit it.
Yeah, I would say that there are a lot of different models for compensation. Those who make the most money typically earn their money from commissions. That's where the big bucks are. But what comes with that is starving a lot until you figure it out. So you've got to kind of weigh those things as you think about it.
The financial, it's all performance based. So you are building your own salary commission structure. I've done different models where you have residual income from products you sell or licenses. So you have to understand contracts, negotiation. You have to track all of your sales, be responsible for your inbound, where that comes from, or external. Even a nonprofit has a fundraiser, a person that helps garner the money. So don't think that business development sales, again, is this icky thing. Every organization, in order to foot the bill, they have a successful sales department will be an extension of marketing. Yep, absolutely. And will serve that same bottom goal and that same allocation.
So I'd like now to flop over to B2B. What do you all think about this question?
I think you'll hear this a lot, dependent on education and experience, but I think bottom line, you'll probably make somewhere between 50 and 80 starting out would be the ballpark range, I would think.
Okay. Anybody else? B2B.
No, I think that's right. Roy's spot on the starting out salaries. But if you can go up to in the 200s after years and running brands and that kind of stuff. So it's the sky is the limit on marketing. That's why it's so great.
That's why it's so great. What about market research? Grant, Ted, Angela?
We typically see an analyst come in at like 40 to 50. The track, though, I think is if you're a good analyst, you have the potential to be a VP or a chief. Because if you're good at understanding and analyzing data and then converting that data into business action, you hold a lot of value to your organization. So it can be an interesting track that's basically not one-sided.
And the other thing, if the marketers have an idea of what percentage increase over 5 years to indicate to the students with experience what the salary would be, that would be helpful as well within the roles.
So I'll say something there, and then I'll let anybody else in the market research group answer. My experience with the track of 4 to 5 years and salaries is most people coming just starting believe they want to make a lot more than 5 years and might be capable of. I think you need to judge your job not just on your salary, but on all the components that make up the job. Are you learning every day? Do you like what you're doing? Do you feel like you have the opportunity to move up in the organization? All of those are just as important as in, am I making another $10,000? Although money is always important. Anybody else from the market research group? All right, what about brand market management? Same question.
So I'll jump in and then see if Melissa, I think similar to market research and some of the others, I think, starting out with some experience, I would say 50-ish, kind of 50 to 80 for depending on kind of the skills. I do think one thing I would say is I do think early in your career, it's really important you do focus on skill acquisition. So oftentimes I think the more you can almost sort of move along, like if you've got building blocks of email, sales, then I think your upward trajectory can be even higher if you can make sure you're getting that set of skills as you move on. But I think, again, we'll bring people in, depending on what they're, if they've got a couple of years of experience, prior to graduate school, anywhere in the 50 to 80.
Yeah, right now I'm East Coast based, so our salary ranges are slightly higher, but you're also hitting a much higher cost of living. A couple of thoughts on compensation and something I generally counsel early career individuals on is oftentimes early career employees will chase compensation versus chase experience. I will not hire anyone into my team that has not been promoted in their early career inside of one company. So if every promotion is every 18 months, it's a new job with a promotion, I don't actually look at those individuals and I will discard them from the outset, because what I have found is those are not the individuals that are actually going to help me build a long-term commitment and plan for a business. So I just have learned through the College of Hard Knocks that it doesn't work. The reason I share that with you is I know it'll be really enticing to jump. And hey, we've all been in your positions where, my base salary when I started from college, I'll date myself right now, was $24,000 a year, which was a lot more than all of my friends that were teachers were making, but still no money. Compensation was really important to me. And I probably within 18 months could have jumped in my first company for another $5 to $7 grand. Instead, I stayed with my first employer for 5.5 years. And in that time went from making $24,000 to making $65,000. So you can do the math and understand what that capital gains was for me. And I was promoted twice within that role in that company. That was helpful for me as it demonstrated my ability to actually understand and navigate how corporate America works. And as I went into new positions, I think that's been one of the most valuable things I have seen in individuals that I have hired in that are early career is, are they willing to invest the time to build the skills to be valuable to the company they're at? If all they're interested in is chasing compensation, that's an okay strategy. It's just not a fit for the type of individuals I'm seeking. And I think many senior executives are candidly seeking. So just give you guys some of that from a council perspective. The other thing I'd recommend is, especially if you're early career and you are considering extending your education, getting an MBA, even if you do it at night, or if you end up working for 3 or 4 years and going off to another school. I did not personally have that luxury. I went to Rockhurst down the street from UNKC in the evenings and secured my MBA. That was very helpful for me as I advanced my career as well. So being a lifetime learner is both an investment in yourself, but also candidly a requirement to be successful in this world, because marketing is going to change a tremendous amount in the next 5 to 15 years. So being able to, what I call leap on lily pads, the idea that you're always thinking one step ahead, and as long as you don't stop, you don't sink, that type of mentality will serve you well.
Agreed. I'm going to move on to advertising. Jimmy, Christy, either one of you want to answer?
Christy, you want to go first?
Yeah, I actually will rely probably on you two for the agency. Okay. It's been a few years since I've been on the agency side. I've been on brand side for a while, but I will tell you my experience is that agencies maybe are a little bit lower than some that you're hearing here. But the goodness in the agency side, again, is that you get experience to lots and lots of things. So I agree 1,000% with what others have said about it. It's about getting skills and expanding your knowledge within the opportunities that you're given, and take every single chance you can to learn a new channel, to learn a new piece of the business, to dive into sales. Like I can't, that's so, so important, because that's what's going to be important when you're looking for, a job on the client side or the brand side or research side. All of those experiences are going to help. So agencies, though, have plenty of other benefits and awesomeness to it. So again, it's not only about the compensation. You'll get to work on some super fun, creative pieces that you may never get the opportunity again. Selling soup is fun, but it may not be, quite as exciting as some of the other agency work that you could get to be a part of. So
thank you, Jimmy. I'll let you answer. You're my friend to me, so I want to hear what you're paying, and I'll say what.
Yeah, I was going to say we do a fairly significant audit on a annual basis, just to kind of know where we're at competitively. Now, cost of living aside, typically you're getting into agencies within like the mid 30s if you're thinking about a Kansas City market. Now that can vary drastically based on role or department. Like if you start to get into technology spaces as a developer or other really specific sort of subject matter expertise, you can demand a higher sort of starting salary compared to other, what you might call the average. Now, if you stay for 5 years, I'd say, and you're at the same agency, there's probably, you're going to increase anywhere from, 30 to 70% of that compensation in 5 years. Now, people like to hop in our industry, so it tends to be a high turnover space, and people leave for compensation a lot and to build a portfolio because they get to work on a ton of things, and it just helps to strengthen, their capabilities. So I think I would say, based on my colleagues and in our 20s and what we made from where we started, it was around double of what, and that's based on some kind of hopping around and, getting, money being a driver of some of that. So you can expect anywhere in the 60 to 80 range potentially if you're in your later sort of later 20s potentially. Again, depends on your expertise and your capabilities a lot of the time.
What I would add to all of this discussion is realize that most companies have structure, which is to say they can't give you a $30,000 raise just because they like you. They have structures that they're using from HR if they're a larger company, and they have to follow some guidelines. So you have to work within those guidelines if you're a manager. What I would say is it's important that you bring yourself into a company at a salary you believe is fair, because that's where you're starting from. So if you come in and you get somebody who says, hey, you know, just take $10,000 less and I promise you we'll take care of you. Look out for that, because it's tough for somebody to take care of you if they're starting you off that low. And what we find happening is a lot of times people will bounce from agency to agency because they're trying to get their salary up more so than learning and getting experience. Does that make sense? There's a question from somebody: what does the job market look like for those individuals who go back to school to get an MBA after 20 years in the workforce? Anybody want to answer that?
I think it's more relevant for the brand side, because you're asking what's the MBA comp lift? In an agency, it's pretty simple. It's not a lot, because that's not something that I would say is significantly valued in the advertising space. Well, it should be, but I think brand, you probably have the most relevant answer to that one.
To me, it's less about compensation differential and more about the new opportunity that you want to get. So you may not see it in the initial role, but you may become the lead candidate in the next position that you're interviewing for, or the opportunity to take the role that you're seeing. You know, if your leader moves on and there's 5 direct reports, that degree ends up potentially elevating those candidates. If everything else were equal, it gives you just another lift. I will also tell you, it gives you your personal confidence that you go into a room. And many of you in marketing roles may have decided not to take math courses because you thought you were more on the creative side. It balances out your own skill set and gives you the confidence to go in and have technical conversations on the financials and other areas that you may not feel as, you may feel you're a words person versus a strategy and details and data-driven person. And those data-driven analytics are very important to the senior leaders in an organization.
Yeah, I would say, just to kind of tie a bow on this piece, unlike nursing or teaching or a lot of places you can see where when you get an MBA, you can expect X because you got the MBA. I don't see that in the marketing and advertising field. It is very much gives you opportunity, you learn. The other thing that I found for all the people that get MBAs in my company is just the rubbing elbows with other MBA candidates was actually worth as much as the education they got coming out of it. So I think there's a lot of reasons to look at an MBA besides just, am I going to get an immediate salary bump? Okay, we've got just a few minutes left. I want to jump to the last question.
I was going to add something.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is Alma, and I'm with T-Mobile in marketing. And I wanted to add, especially for those starting early in their career, that, you know, it is, like Melissa said, instead of going maybe for the next position that's going to offer you X, sometimes the benefit of staying with the company longer is that you can go from different roles and kind of gather your skills. So for example, I was a finance major and I started in audit, and then I went into finance, and then financial analyst, and then I went over to marketing strategy, and now I'm in marketing still. So I feel like, you know, for those thinking about their MBA, and that's a great strategy. If you are in a company, and fortunate that if it's a big enough company that you can take initiative within your own company and kind of gather your skill sets to make yourself even more marketable within your own company and other industries.
Yeah, I think the other thing about it is it gives you significant edge up if you're looking to make a move too. If you realize you're in a highly competitive marketplace, and if there are 35 candidates and 12 of them have MBA and the others don't, they're going to get an extra look. And if you've got all the other qualifications, it's going to put you that much ahead.
Yep.
So we only have about 5 minutes. So the last question I did want to try and maybe kind of leave it to everybody to answer if they'd like is, they want to know, how the heck do I get entry? How do I get started? So, you know, how do I get into a particular part of the business? For me, internship is #1 thing. Find an internship. If you don't have an internship, find one, because the internships open the doors to the first entry-level jobs. Others?
I would say on the advertising side, while there are a lot of agencies within the Kansas City market, it's a pretty small world whenever you look at the total like group of people that work in our space. And one of the biggest things that I did when I was a graduate of UMKC, I went and I did informational interviews. I didn't have an internship. I just went and talked to and like started, harassing people in HR and other groups at agencies to try and meet them for coffee. It's a hard world to break into. But I think once you do, and you kind of do that casually, I think that was my kind of strategy to getting into the space. So, but yeah.
Great. Others?
Stay connected. Referrals are the name of the game. If you've got an in with someone, that is the best way to get your resume out of the pool of hundreds into the, teens, so that you actually, can get your foot in the door. I think that's true just about anywhere. Any connection you have, use them, and then pay it forward, right? So don't just be the user of that, like help others as well. So.
Anybody else?
One of the things that I've learned through COVID is I've been doing with a friend of mine out in New York. We've been doing these webinars on business development, helping small agencies, owners, and biz dev people to do business development in this new normal. And what I've learned is most people in our industry, the agency industry, have no background in sales training at all. And unfortunately, well, at least back when I was at UMKC, there really wasn't strong sales training classes. So if this is a track that you really want to get into, continue doing what you're doing, be an expert in the agency world, in marketing, in branding, but at the same time, find someone that you can have some training on the actual selling part of it, because if you don't have it, people are going to see it.
Just to add on one thing is, I do think that like brand management, we typically do not hire people right out of school with no experience.
Alan, we can't hear you.
Shoot. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's better.
A little bit.
So we typically don't hire people without some experience in brand management. We don't hire right out of entry level. So as I said, if you can get experiences, even customer care, like I said, I've brought a lot of people out of customer care, a lot out of merchandising. I have had people who said, well, I can't get the right thing, so I'm just not going to take anything earlier in their career. I think gaps with nothing is worse than how do you take the experience and translate it into marketing. And again, anything where you're working with a customer, sales, sale is highly, highly valuable and is better than having nothing.
Totally agree. One thing I would also add to all this conversation is, are you a student of the marketplace? Do you understand consumers, today's consumers? Do you understand the channels that today's consumers use? How do you use those channels yourself? All of that is going to you're going to be able to take great advantage of if you're looking to be in our business, because we as individuals looking to hire people, we have this complex. When I joined the marketplace, you could advertise on TV, radio, or send some direct mail, or maybe an outdoor board. Think about what all the channels you have now. It's so complex today, and understanding those complexities will go a long way towards it. But you have to understand them and be able to talk them and demonstrate them when you're in interviews. That's a part of how you're going to get into companies.
So I'm sorry to interrupt, but before I allow Ashley to say the vote of thanks, a quick point to the students on the event. As you can sense, this panel is so ready and so excited and so enthusiastic to provide all the help that you need. I would urge all of you to consider strongly joining the mentorship initiative that we are piloting this summer with this very active group. You can pick their brains to virtually tap into anything and everything related to your careers. And so please consider that. And I then leave it to Ashley and Mike for any final words that you might have to say.
Ashley?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to all of the MAC members for giving up your time and giving up a little bit of your lunch hour to talk with our students. I'm going to also thank you all in advance for any effort and time you give to mentoring initiatives and to helping the MLA group grow. Thanks to Andrea and Kalpesh especially for helping with me to put this all together. For the students in the group, I kind of mentioned this in the chat, but this was recorded, so I will be following up with all of you with the link as well as the list of MAC members that participated on this. If you do have questions about careers, I'm just going to put a plug in for the Bloch Career Center. It's literally what I do. So if you have questions about informational interviewing or interviewing in general, networking, your resume, cover letters, MBAs, whatever you want to talk about. I know Tess is also on this call. Tess is my director and director of the Bloch Career Center. I work as the professional development manager. Happy to chat with any of you. But yeah, I just want to say again, thank you. I'll let Mike, if you have any other questions.
Yeah, I'll tie a bow on it just by saying informational interviews can lead to jobs. It is one of the most important skills you can learn. Everybody likes to talk about themselves. So when you call somebody and say, can I get 15 minutes of your time to talk about my career and give me some advice? Very few will turn you down. It's how you set it up. Happy to help people with that. I've helped lots and lots of people with that technique. But I hope you've learned something today. I hope that in this short period of time, you've gained a little bit from us, and hopefully we'll have more and more of these as time goes on. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.